Greetings, radiant particles. We greet you today to approach a question many have asked across eons of time. What is the meaning of life and why am I here? What is my purpose? For each individual, only you can answer that from within yourself. And only when you know who you are can you answer that. For as long as you have your masks on, as long as you are not being the real you, you cannot find the real answer. You can find temporary answers, partial answers. And even when you know who the real you is, each of you is experiencing the one from a different perspective. You are each standing in a different place in reality, seeing a different part, a different nature of it. And so your perception of meaning and purpose will be yours and yours alone, for you to find. That is the great treasure of it. No one else can tell you. Each of you will be different. You cannot look at someone else's meaning and purpose and say, hey, that's not the same as mine. That can't be right. For each of you has this different view. And each of you is right from your own perspective. It is just a perspective. And all perspectives are correct, because you're all seeing the same thing in different ways. So, find the real you first, and then you will know your purpose and meaning. And the journey to that discovery, that founding of yourself, is part of why you're here. To return to your true nature. And from within the limited experience, that's all you can have, is a limited perception of your meaning and purpose. But seen from the point of view of the one void, there is an overall perspective. But even the totality in itself, in total, has no meaning or purpose. For since everything is within the totality, there is nothing outside with which to compare it to. And for meaning and purpose you need comparison. So the totality is incomparable. It cannot be said to have time, or space, or meaning, or purpose. It just is. And yet within the infinite divisions within the totality, there is meaning and purpose. We shall paint a little picture of how this arises. Everything is in this moment now, but we will paint the picture in a time sequence, for we know this will make more sense to you. Imagine starting at the one, the foundation of consciousness is the self-referential nature of the one void, that the void cannot be without being one, hence the self-reference. And as that self-referentiality becomes more complex, it comes to what you know as consciousness. Now, starting with the simplicity of the one void, you may imagine a time sequence of that self-referentiality referring to its immediate outside environment. And because the starting point is infinite dimensions of nothing, as it relates to the surrounding environment, it's infinitely fast. And the self-reference goes out and comes back. Cycles. And when it comes back, it returns with, if you like, experience in our terms. We can paint a more mathematical image, but in your terms this is the experience of consciousness. And that experience then, the next time it goes out further, because it's already defined its immediate environment. Then that environment describes the environment around that, a larger environment. Going out, coming back, going out, coming back, getting larger and larger. But each foray, further and further from the one, is a decreasing number of dimensions, and hence a funneling, a limitation of what we know as consciousness. The further you extend from one, the less dimensions there are, and the more limited the consciousness, getting smaller and smaller. For the one is totally conscious of everything, and in moving from it you become less and less conscious, until at the infinite limits, the boundaries, you only have 3 degrees of consciousness left, what you call 3 dimensions. It's not the dimensions of your physicality, because if you look at the information, there are infinite dimensions of information surrounding you now. It is your perception of it that is limited, that gives the illusion of only 3 dimensions. So you are at the boundary, and like with a glass of water, imagine the water is consciousness filling up the glass. It has to fill up at the bottom. And so the consciousness pouring into the totality is you at the bottom filling it up. But where the water touches the bottom, the nature of the water changes, very much like it does at the top, and you have the surface tension and your meniscus. It's water with a different nature to the bit that's in the middle. So at the bottom, your degrees of freedom are limited. In the middle, you can move in any direction, but at the bottom, you're stuck. You'll have to move on this plane or upwards. And that limitation is what you feel as separation. It's the limitation of your being. Now, we painted this picture of an expanding circular consciousness, going out and returning, going out and returning, going further and further and further, until it reaches the infinite limits, which is where you are now. All possibilities exist as possibilities, but only when they are manifested, actualized, experienced, do they become real. It is the experiencing of them that turns them into reality, into actuality. And that is what your consciousnesses are doing. And at a higher level you've chosen this. You could say it's a dirty job and someone had to do it, and you chose to do it. For it is imperative, for the glass cannot be filled until the bottom is filled. So, your purpose from one perspective is to be that which has not been. We've talked about the 5 natures, and this is the physical nature, the physicality to actually exist and be that which has not been at the boundaries, to make the possibilities actualized, and in terms of your vitality, to experience and manipulate on this level, to experience the unexperienced. We'll leave this one for a moment and jump to the emotions, to feel the unfelt, to feel what hasn't been felt before, including suffering. For until the glass is completely full, until totality knows all of itself, it cannot be said to be the totality. If there is some bit that has not been experienced, that has not been manifest, has not been actualized, it is not the totality. So you are the totalizers. You are the ones manifesting the totality. We come back to the middle one, the structure, the mind, the understanding. And the totality as a set of possibilities is just a pattern, a resonant pattern, with no inherent meaning. It is just a pattern. It is as it is. And you've seen this type of pattern in your resonant experiments of chelidny plates and other forms of seeing patterns of sound manifest in 2 dimensions. But recognise this also occurs in 3 dimensions in a more complex manner, and 4 dimensions. The higher and higher dimensions, the resonant patterns become more complex, and you are experiencing a variety of them around you now. All you see are just crystallized resonant patterns that you have actualized with your own consciousness. And in your understanding, in your ability to look at something and say, I don't know what that is, how does that work? And resolving it, actualizing the meaning and purpose of the pattern. You are creating meaning and purpose yourself. That is why it is up to each individual to perceive their own. And the spiritual pole, now, to fit down on this level we have to lose a freedom, and this is the one we lose, the spiritual pole. So in your vehicle, as you say, you have lost that degree of freedom because only 4 poles fit down into a 3-dimensional reality. This is the cup of tea mudra, shall we say, with the little finger pointing up, your little pinky. The others holding the teacup handle. For the 4 parts of your vehicle are here, and this one, the spiritual part, is your witness. You haven't lost it at all, it's been there all the time. The spiritual pole is your witness having the experience. Your vehicle is being the experience, and your witness is witnessing it. That is your spiritual pole. But within the vehicle, missing the spiritual pole, you manifest a fake one. You construct a history of your experience on this world, and from it derive a notion of your personality, your character, your ego even, and believe that to be you. But that is not you, you're just the witness. This is the vehicle, if you like, operated by remote control, because this level, dense level that you're in, because it is not completely explored, the light has not yet fully manifest in it. Only by making your consciousness fully aware in this dense realm do you let the light in. And that's the nature of ascension. When you let the light in, the realm you are in becomes illuminated and the dark disappears, for there are no more shadows anymore. But in creating a false spiritual pole, you've also created a false perception of reality that's not quite right. And that's why you have so much discord and confusion. And only when people rediscover the true spiritual nature of who you are does that begin to resolve. And the ego is just another part of the vehicle, and it becomes a valuable part, an essential part. For until the light can come fully in, the light can only operate as your witness, as if operating a remote control car or an avatar on one of your computer games. And only when the reality, the totality that you are experiencing in this density level has been resolved to the necessary degree which you are approaching imminently, can that light then come in and your witness, you see your physicality ascending to higher planes, we see the witness descending down and illuminating the plane that you're in. So it's not that your plane will rise to a higher dimension. You will bring the higher dimensions down into this plane to enliven it, to give it life. That is your purpose. That is your meaning. And because you are at the boundary between, at the edge of light, that is why it seems dark, because you're looking at the boundary where the light is not yet fully penetrated. And when you do, instead of seeing a glass, you'll see an endless tube. The lack of freedom will disappear. The water will flow freely through the tube. The light will flow freely through all reality. And that freedom will be manifest across all realms of reality, all dimensions. You will know the one, the light will return immediately to the one. Everything will flow. Everything will be in harmony. The light will banish the darkness. And joy will be the result. And love, because love is harmony. Resonance in harmony is love. And when you have finalized your work, any moment now, and harmony results, the light flows freely, the darkness disappears, joy and laughter reigns. As we approach that barrier, there is resonance, a coming and going, a to and a fro of energies, of darkness appearing to manifest over the top of you and then receding. The contrast growing greater, because only when you get to the greatest contrast will you see the greatest light. And that great light is what will ultimately banish the darkness. So, oh radiant particles, you are so important to the whole of totality. You are defining the boundaries. For only in knowing what the boundaries are does the totality know what it is. You are essential and impeccable and brave and courageous, and we salute you. So, greetings, radiant particles. We love you.